I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated.
The villages of America.
In terms of election day, I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
You see that? He's saying there's some very sick, radical leftists that it should be handled by the National Guard and, if necessary, the U.S. military, bro. This is not something we should take lightly. Because again, guys, one of the things that we can't get over with this is the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has basically said if Donald Trump breaks the law while president, he's immune if he's engaging in the official act of the presidency. So all he has to do is declare some type of national emergency and make something an official act. And then there's nothing we can do, bro. They've literally said this. He can be immune as president. They've set the stage for it. Those religious zealots that gave him the overturning of Roe v. Wade, all of the generals that have worked with him have said, don't elect this guy.
When you have someone like Mark Milley sounding the alarm and calling Donald Trump fascist to the core.
Dude, that's a military general who worked with Donald Trump who's saying this about Trump.
And the most dangerous person to this country. That's a big deal.
Dude, look at this guy. Look at this guy's fucking military accomplishments, bro. In the military for 43 years. 43 fucking years. Since 1980, he has worked with Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump. He's a fucking general. In the U.S. Army, he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He worked with Trump, and he said, dude, this guy, fascist to the core, the most dangerous man out there, do not let him back into office. Donald Trump is out there saying, hey, you know, we're going to send the military in on our own citizens, the enemy within, the radical leftists. And dude, we should be fucking listening to this guy.
Mark Milley, the U.S. Army general who Donald Trump appointed as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, now says the current Republican presidential nominee is a quote-unquote fascist to the core.
It's pretty
And
frightening.
Says no person has ever posed more of a danger to the United States than the man who served as the 45th president.
No person, dude, coming from like one of the top generals, bro.
States. Milley, a decorated military officer who became a target for right-wing scorn after it became known that he expressed concerns over Trump's mental stability in the wake of his 2020 election loss to Joe Biden, is described by journalist Bob Woodward in his new book, War, as incredibly alarmed at the prospect of a second Trump term in the White House.
Dude, that's crazy, though. Everybody who worked with Donald Trump has been sounding this alarm. And so you got to ask yourself, though, why are the voters not listening? Like, what's going on? Because you can't say that. I'm not buying that it's about economics. I mean, do they really think Donald Trump's going to go in there and wave a magic wand and like prices are instantly going to come down and gas prices are going to cut in half? Like, we know that didn't happen. We know that the only time they really fell was when COVID was happening and everybody was dying. You couldn't even buy toilet paper. You had to wipe your ass with a paper bag, bro. So like, what's really going on that people are like, wow, even people who are pro-military, the generals that have been in the military for 40 years and worked with every single president are like, this guy is toxic and harmful and dangerous. Please don't let him back into that office. But people want to let him back anyway. Like, what is that about? How does that compute? Are they traumatized from the pandemic themselves and they're just trying to sabotage America? Are they just trying to like burn the country to the ground because they're miserable and unhappy? I just don't understand it. I mean, I guess maybe it's like this impulse of like unacknowledged racism where people are just mad and they're not sure why they're mad, but they want to wreak some havoc or something. But it's pretty alarming to think about the fact that high level, very competent people that have served in the U.S. military that are warning us. They're saying, for the love of God, do not let this guy win the election. And yet, a bunch of fucking dumb white guys are like, let's give him the election, right? We love the military, and they're telling us this guy's going to fuck everything up, and we're going to do it anyway. Because goddamn, we're dumb. Like, bro, it just doesn't compute to me, guys. It doesn't. I don't get it.
The military is bad. We have generals that do such a bad job, they never get fired. I mean, they should have been fired.
In all seriousness, no joke here. I know we do a lot of yelly entertainment or whatever, but in his first term, during the George Floyd scenario and during the Black Lives Matter movement, Donald Trump wanted to use the U.S. military on cities that he considered Democratic cities. He wanted to send them into Minneapolis and Portland and other cities that he thought were Democratic, like anti-Trump cities. He wanted to send in the military. You cannot use the military against your own citizens. But Donald Trump wanted to, and the generals that were working on his Joint Chiefs of Staff prevented him from doing that. Now, these are the same guys. All the people in the Department of Defense that used to work for this man are now saying, they've been sounding the alarm for a year, saying, do not, under any circumstances, let Donald Trump be president again. Like, we literally had to do everything we could to prevent him from just setting the Constitution on fire, from like using the military to attack U.S. citizens on U.S. soil, and a whole bunch of other shit. And nobody's fucking listening, but now he's talking about it right here. He's going to go into it again.
I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
You see that? Election day security under scrutiny. Dude, it's kind of scary, bro. I'll be honest, dude. He's getting wackier and wackier.
How are you going to guard against the bureaucrats undermining you?
Well, they're going to undermine. Well,
the bureaucrats undermining him. Now, see, this is a really interesting point, guys, about Trump. Is in his first term, he had government people that were preventing him from breaking the law and doing really outlandish shit. And now they're not. He wants to not have anybody give him any guardrails. If he wins again, he wants to just do whatever the he wants, and nobody says peep. So that's his goal.
We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries, because if you have a smart president, he can handle them.
This was from the morning show today. This was Trump on Maria Bartiromo's show this morning. He's really fucking losing it. He's obviously worried about his chances. He is. He's worried about Kamala winning. And the reason why is because of the principle of maximum capacity. That means that Trump has a ceiling. Kamala Harris does not have a ceiling. Kamala Harris, the deeper that they go, the more doors they knock, the more outreach they do. Kamala Harris has a lot of voters she can still win. Donald Trump really does not. You know what I mean? There's nobody out there that's kind of like, oh, I'm not sure who I'm going to vote for. And then they hear him screaming, calling immigrants murderers and shit. Nobody's won over by that. Donald Trump is trying to turn out all of the nasty motherfuckers who love him. And he's just trying to not lose voters. He's fighting against Christians who don't want to vote because he's so toxic, right? He's fighting against losing his own voters. He is. He has a ceiling. All the best pollsters out there, nobody thinks he can win more than like 46% of the national vote. Nobody thinks he can do better than that. Whereas Kamala Harris, she could win 50%, 51%, 52%. She very easily could. Donald Trump, I don't think there's a chance that he could win 50%. I just don't think it's possible. He's alienated too many people. Because of this, though, what he's doing is, you saw how he went through that brief period of like moderating. Remember? He was going to be moderate. He was like going to be the unity guy right around the shootings and shit. He was going to be the unity guy. We were going to see the brand new Trump. And he just can't do that. He can't be uniting. All he knows how to do is be nasty and divisive and, you know, headline grabbing. So he's getting like really, really desperate, and he's getting really, really out there. I am nervous, don't get me wrong, because anything could happen, guys. Anything could happen. I've seen Americans do stupid things before, guys. I mean, they did it in 2016. We do have one advantage, though, that this time around, we know what a Trump presidency is like. We've experienced it. We've been there. And we've seen like Roe v. Wade. We've seen their attacks on people's civil rights. We've seen the anti-LGBTQ bills in state houses. We've seen the attack ads against transgender people. So that definitely works in our favor. But you still never know. But whatever, the truth doesn't matter to Trumpy, right? The whole world was perfect when he left. And now it's horrible and failing in every possible way. And the day he wins, it's going to be perfect again because he's perfect. And dude, I'm sorry, but I know we're like clowning this, but anybody who actually supports this guy is a fucking moron. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. If you're watching me right now and you are a Trump supporter, there's something fucking wrong with you, because you're not voting for the economy, because he offshore jobs, trade war with China, 8 trillion added to the deficit, manufacturing jobs left like candy, bro. He's talking about tariffs and all this other shit that's gonna blow up the deficit again. Tax cuts for the wealthy. He's terrible for the economy. He's talking about threatening business, but he says he doesn't really mean it. He's selling Bibles that were made in China. And so what are you voting for? He can't answer a goddamn question. He sounds like an absolute fucking moron. Like, I've literally seen people on the street, brain dead, making more sense than this guy. He's the world's biggest victim, bro. He's a walking piece of grievance.